to the Catholic Church and what's being called a dramatic shift in tone on gays as well as divorced and remarried parishioners. Church bishops and the Pope are midway through a 2-week series of closed-door meetings at the Vatican discussing family values. Yesterday, church leaders announced, quote, homosexuals have gifts and qualities to offer the Christian communities. But the bishops also reiterated the church's opposition to same-sex marriage.
We must respect the dignity of every person. And the fact to be homosexual doesn't mean that this dignity must be not recognized and promoted.
And on the contentious issue of divorced and remarried Catholics, now the bishops now urge new pastoral paths to reach those who feel separated from the church because they cannot receive communion. This comes after Pope Francis married 20 couples at the Vatican last month, some of whom had been living together, including one couple who already had a child. NBC Vatican analyst George Weigel is joining me now. Always nice to see you, George. Thank you.
Morning,
Peter. Can you help us understand, is this a shift in tone or is this a shift in church doctrine that we're talking about here?
It's certainly not a shift in doctrine. And in fact, Peter, I think in the print reporting I saw this morning, this story is being wildly overinterpreted.
So what's the upshot?
If the Synod were the Congress, it's not a legislative body, it's a consultative body. But if it were the Congress, this interim report that was issued yesterday would be the equivalent of a subcommittee markup. It's simply a report on what people were talking about. And what they're talking about is the very difficult, challenging problem of how do you call people to conversion, call people to a deeper way of Christian life, without compromising the truths on which the faith rests. That's a tough pastoral problem that the church has been wrestling with for 2,000 years. Now it's doing it in public, which gets a lot of attention.
So does this document reflect the philosophy of Pope Francis? Is that perhaps the biggest takeaway here? Or?
The document really isn't a document in the sense of anything with finality to it.
Well, let's call it the message. Does the message reflect his philosophy?
No, this report, this interim report, reflects the conversations that have been going on for the past 10 days in Rome. That will be the basis of the next 3 or 4 days of conversation, which I think are going to get pretty feisty, and indeed already were yesterday, as the church struggles to figure out, how do you speak the truth in love? How do you speak the truth with charity? How do you invite all of us to a deeper conversion? That's what the church is for.
And in preparation for these meetings, the church sent out surveys to its diocese to really sort of get a sense of what they're saying in the pews. So what are they saying?
I think one of the things they're saying is that the church has done an inadequate job of teaching what it believes, which is often heard exclusively in terms of no's, when in fact every time the church says no to something, it's saying that on the basis of a higher yes. And what Pope Francis is doing is trying to get us to say the yes more effectively, so that sometimes the no, which is hard to hear, can be heard better.
George Weigel, we appreciate your being here. Thanks for the update.
Thank you.